I spent most of my acting career like making myself crazy with such high standards for myself. It's just like I just, it's not that I was necessarily insecure about my acting abilities, but my standards for myself internally were so high, they were off the charts. I think maybe because, like, if you work with, pretty staggering talent, Marion Mercer, Tony Award winning, and she's like, playing my mother in my first La Mama production. I digress. But you tend to, whatever work environment it is, to really set very high standards for yourself that are sometimes, a little maybe unrealistic or unfair to yourself, but nevertheless, I held them. And so one evening, believe it or not, like out of my whole life, out of my whole career, as it were, one evening changed everything about that feeling of being average. I mean, literally, comparatively speaking, I didn't, I just, you're average when you're measured against such a stagger. I mean, like, how can I compete with Colleen Dewars? How can I compete with George C. Scott? Anyway, so I was studying with Joan Darling, who's very well known director and mainstream actress. You can Google her if you like. And I chose for this first of two seminars that I did with Joan, who's really my acting mentor, whether she knows it or not, the Seagull. The first time I had chosen it in an acting class, Treplev with the mother, the scene with the mother, pinnacle kind of scene, and it really fell flat. It just went nowhere. But this time I chose it for Joan Darling's class, and I enlisted an old friend of the family named Eve Brent. Now, Eve Brent was one of the first Janes of Tarzan and Jane. Again, you'll have to Google her career. It's extensive. And so I bring her in to rehearse the scene for me to just do the scene with me in Joan's class, because this is a very high powered seminar. She comes from Vail, Colorado, where she lives with her husband twice a year to do these seminars, if you're lucky. So Ann Archer is in my class, it's like, big kind of deal here. So even I rehearse this scene. It is this like pinnacle kind of scene between the Treplev, the part that I play in Chekhov's The Seagull, with my mother. And it's this kind of like very like maudlin, or it's almost Oedipal kind of. It's a very odd scene, or it's a scene. It's a scene of scenes with a mother and a son. And so we rehearsed this, I don't want to say to death, but quite extensively. And I mean, down to the wardrobe. Like, we lived and breathed these rehearsals or this. And when the night came of the showcase for all of our scenes at the end of the seminar, before we even stepped on the stage, Eve, Brent, and I knew that some kind of magic was going to happen.